Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our co-hosts, Sri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage with consumers online, in-store, and everywhere in between. And now, here are Sri and Peter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the CPG Guys podcast. I'm PVSB, one of the aforementioned CPG Guys. I'm also the Vice President of Partner Strategy and Development at Fetch Rewards mobile loyalty platform. And as always, I'm joined in this educational journey about how brands and retailers engage consumers in an increasingly digitally driven world by my other half. He is the West Coast to my East Coast. He's a legend in the CPG space. Everyone knows him by his first name. Please join me in welcoming the man known as Sri. Sri, greetings. How are you?
Doing awesome, Peter.
Want to remind our audience that all of our content, it can be found by just visiting cpgguys.com. That includes 160 plus episodes on 40 platforms, links to our LinkedIn page, Instagram, Twitter, even a list of the podcasts that we listen to when we are not obsessed with listening to ourselves drone on and on. Some of the episodes to listen to over the Christmas week, we released the annual Omnis Awards. Those are our take on the absolute best in omnichannel digital. It's a little tongue-in-cheek. We have fun with it, but it's something we like to do every year. Check those episodes out. And of course, Brian Gildenberg's year-end retrospective and 2022 predictions. All really good content. And make sure to go to our LinkedIn page. You can do that by going to your browser, going to the LinkedIn site, and then searching for CPG Guys, or you can do it through the LinkedIn mobile app. But when you get there, enter CPG Guys in the search box. And when you get to our company page, click the blue follow button. That way you will be privy to all of the wonderful content that we are publishing all of the time. It's a lot of great stuff in addition to amplifying the episodes that we're publishing. We like to recognize people that are movers and shakers in the industry, articles we think are interesting. All right, enough about our podcast. Let's get on to today's topic. Brands cannot win in today's omnichannel world without big data analytics to fuel their decision making. Oftentimes, success boils down to an organization's ability to not only identify, but to actually enable last mile adoption of insights. The solutions must deliver sustainable analytics, not for a one-time project, but for ongoing processes. The CPG Guys are partnering in today's episode with Tredence, a provider of AI consulting and advanced prescriptive analytics that harmonizes data and humanizes experience to help companies efficiently accelerate their smart investments in AI. CPG is a focused industry vertical for Tredence. Here to speak with us about the use of AI-based advanced analytics is Tredence's global head of CPG strategy and a great friend of mine. Prior to Tredence, he spent nearly 14 years at the Coca-Cola Company. Please join Sri and me in welcoming to the podcast Jason Villano. And Jason is joined by his colleague, Kash Kasinarasimhan, Principal for CPG Strategy and a veteran of the global Coca-Cola bottling system. Hey, Jason and Kash, what's going on?
Doing fantastic, Peter. Really happy to kind of be here today and be able to share a little bit about the AI world with y'all.
Kash, how you doing?
Yeah, very excited, Pete and Sri. I've been following you guys for a long time, so extremely happy to be here.
That's terrific. We love when we talk to people who know about the CPG Guys and understand what our mission is. So makes you ready to have a really meaningful conversation. All right. Before we get to the questions we have, Jason, I would love if you would first, because our audience, they like to browse the web while they're listening. Can you tell them where they can find more about Tredence online? And then can you just give us a 30,000-foot overview of really what your organization's about?
Yeah, no, not a problem. So where you can find us online is at Tredence.com. So TREDENCE.com. And really what we do is we're an end-to-end AI consulting firm. So think of it this way. If it starts in the beginning with getting the foundation right with data and data engineering, we work in that space and really around the ingestion of data, the cloud migration process, the harmonization that has to exist, including in the CPG world. And then we also then move into things like stacks within your business. So we work in the RGM space, in finance, and supply chain, across all different functions of the business in providing value. And then on the far end side, we also then work a little bit on the how do you maintain. So as you build in this world of AI and you start to create hundreds of thousands of ML algorithms, how do you then monitor those effectively, find where root causes are and drifts? And then we have products that are able to go to really morph for help within that. And then on the bottom end, on the end-to-end piece, we also come in with folks like myself and Kash, and we've built a team across the globe of people with accomplished backgrounds within CPG that really bring the business lens to what AI can be. And so that's a little bit about Tredence and what we do.
That's great. And our audience knows that AI stands for artificial intelligence, but we are an educational podcast, and you know that, guys. So you threw out an acronym, Jason, RGM. You want to tell people what RGM stands for?
So RGM is Revenue Growth Management.
Brilliant. That's great. And that's all we want to do is, it's interesting because I was explaining to someone this the other day. We like to treat our audience like they're that new person that just joined a company. They're in their first company meeting and the manager's at the front of the room and throws out 5 acronyms, and they generally are probably a little hesitant to stick their hand up. We like to stick their hands up for them and ask them. So as you throw out more acronyms, make sure you come to the table with an explanation. It just brings more people along. So we really appreciate that, Jason.
Well, you remember from my Coke days, we could have had a 50-page book.
OBP. What was OBP?
OBPPC.
OBPPC. Oh boy, that we're not going to bore our audience to death.
Hold on. We can't proceed without understanding what is OBAPBC.
No, Jason.
Occasion, brand, product, or package, product, channel.
Channel, that was, you had to bring that map. Everyone has their acronyms. That was one of Coke's favorites. Here's what I'm going to do. So for Tredence's website and for Jason and Kash's LinkedIn profiles, we're going to include those in the digital liner notes of this episode. So you don't have to write it down. You don't have to be able to spell exactly. Just go to the liner notes and click on the hyperlink. Best way to get to this for everyone. So if it's okay with you, let's kick off. My first question, I'm going to ask you, Jason. Give us a little bit more about Tredence, particularly kind of the origin story, the journey, and where you're trying to take Tredence in terms of its capabilities, and particularly, as you start thinking about the CPG vertical.
Yeah. So where we started was actually back in 2013, 3 founders in an apartment in Bangalore, India. And what we've grown to now in 2021 is 1,300 employees across the globe, with an actual goal of being at 2,000 employees by the end of this year. We're a mixture of data scientists, data engineers, as well as industry experts. But really for us, where it starts is really with the people. What we found in this industry is when you hire the right people and put them with the right leadership, you develop best-in-class product, and you really develop best-in-class differentiation in the marketplace. And so where we truly focus is on last mile delivery, and that's delivering the best quality with the best results and the best business impact to really drive with our customers and our partners for long-term adoption.
You are in a hot space, one of my favorite spaces, because the industry talks about it a lot, but it's still thinking of it as a buzzword, which is artificial intelligence. My question is straightforward. How are the both of you and the company helping the CPG industry with AI, understanding AI, specifically in differentiating itself in a crowded marketplace? Because it's exactly what I said. It's a buzzword. Everybody throws AI out there. Like, what makes you unique?
Yeah, so Shri, what makes us really unique is we look at it in a couple different ways. What we start with first is there's what we call the 3 A's. And the 3 A's are adoption, accessibility, and accountability. And organizations have to understand when you start to build an AI environment, if you don't account for those 3 things, you really have just spent a ton of money on a tool or a solution that's going to have 0 impact to your business. So we know that's the first place to solve. The other area where we really differentiate ourselves is in kind of 3 parts. innovation. And where we've done that is we've built our own incubator called Tredence Studio. We know that the industry in AI and artificial intelligence is going to continue to evolve. Think of it like computers. So it used to be like every 6 months. Now it's almost like every 2 months. So we wanted to establish an in-house incubator that works directly with our partners called Tredence Studio that allows us to co-innovate together and really build towards those new technologies for the future. The second part is really around humanizing experiences. So what we've seen with working with our different partners is that, like I said earlier, if you don't solve for those 3 A's, how do you start to bring that to life? So we do things like we'll get out in the field and work with your route people and understand what the trials and tribulations that they face. How do you then best account for that when things are implemented? How do you maybe change incentive structures? How do you gamify things? Those are things that really drive that humanizing experience through. And then the last part is really around agility. And the agility comes in 2 parts. One of which is through our experience, we've been able to actually develop products called accelerators that reduce the time value equation to about 40-50% of what you normally see. The other piece of it is folks like Kash and myself and our team that we're building. And what that team enables us to do is we don't just go tackle the problem statement that you've put out in front of us. We're going to look at that. And yes, that's what where the over-accomplishing goal is. But we also spot the opportunities that exist around that and build for that as well and bring that thought leadership to the problem so that when you walk away with us, you feel like not only did we accomplish the problem statement that you had, but we also delivered greater business value beyond that problem statement, all within the same project.
Phenomenal, Jason. So when you're talking to CPGs, and I gather that you're doing this on a pretty daily basis, based upon the conversations we've had, and particularly ones that are in the last mile delivery business, what are you seeing as being the biggest challenges and opportunities for the industry? I'll start with Jason. Maybe Kash, you have some thoughts on that too.
Yeah. So what we're seeing right now is there's kind of this evolution that's happening in the marketplace today, including within CPG. I'll say like retail's ahead of where CPG is, but we break it down into this crawl, walk, fly, run, all based upon traditional operating model versus a digital operating model. When you sit within that crawl, walk, run, basically the traditional operating model and the digital operating model flow very much the same. It's you're sitting in different areas. Like in crawl, it's like, how do I get my information on the cloud system so I can start to access it more efficiently? When you start to get into walk, now you're starting to go into, I've developed my stacks. When you start to get into run, how do I get maybe a couple of them to start to talk to each other? But what we have seen is there's this inflection point that sits right at the edge of run going into fly, which actually is the separating point of difference between a traditional operating and digital operating model. And what that essentially is creating that interconnected system that now starts to exist that if I'm in marketing and I go decide to implement a national campaign on said product, that now flows into the forecast of all my customers, which then flows into my production, which then flows into how I ship and how I produce and what facilities I need to do. Now you've created this integrated system that one decision becomes the catalyst for 50 different changes across. Now, the funny part that you'll get into at a certain point in time is that when you finally get to fly and we get 2-3 years down the road, fly becomes crawl. And that evolution will happen because then the expectation and the ante increases. But what we're seeing today is really the hot spots within the CPG industry is one being RGM, revenue growth management. What we've seen with COVID's acted like a huge catalyst in order for price realization in the marketplace. And so we've seen different companies and CPGs really hyper-focused on how do we start to obtain price in the market, but do it in a way that we're also not going to jeopardize our market share and create our products into substitutable products. The second one is around OSA, and that's on-shelf availability. And so for that particular one is that becomes the crux or the core and the foundation of the business, because you can do a lot of things, But if you're not in stock online as well as in the store, you're not going to be successful. And so what we've really seen is, how do you get more transparent in the end-to-end view? Everything from the product is in my warehouse and going to go ship to my retailer or whatever distribution point that may be, to where the consumer actually grabs that product. And how do I become predictive in nature with that, so that I can actually grab those dollars before they're in the rear view mirror, but they're still sitting in front of me at that point in time? Kash, you got any to add?
Yeah, a few to add there, Jason. We also have seen a lot of discussions happen around how analytics, advanced analytics, AI, or machine learning can be leveraged in areas like sustainability. Right? Traditionally, it has been something which has been more as a corporate social responsibility initiative. But today, given the external data that's available and what you can do with that, and the larger program that CPGs have been running, which runs into like 5-10 years or longer, you see analytics being leveraged extensively in sustainability. Where is this getting leveraged? For example, you look at product or packaging innovation, where there's a lot of PET being used, and CPGs are becoming very conscious of how can I reduce use of plastic in my packaging. Or if you look at providing healthier options, better for you options for the consumers in terms of the ingredients that goes into the products, especially in food and beverage. Or if you look at working with the farmers community, CPGs want to focus from where they source till the product reaches the shelf, and maybe even times what do you get back from the shelf, right? So these are some of the areas where you actually see artificial intelligence being leveraged extensively. And things like how much energy are you consuming, how much water are you consuming, these are metrics that CPGs are tracking. And what advanced analytics or artificial intelligence is helping them do is kind of set up that roadmap and say, these are the key drivers, and this is how you can actually reach your target much faster, be it a 5-year or a 10-year target. And also work with the community in a way, you're leveraging, say, weather data, or you're leveraging soil fertility data, and work with the farmers to say what is the kind of yield they could expect from the crops that they're going to harvest. So these are things where CPGs are actively involved. If I have to take another example of supply chain, and supply chain control towers have been around for long, a lot of that has been inward looking. But in the recent years, we've also seen supply chain being a lot more outward looking from a control tower perspective, right? The recent, port congestion, if you see, data from those kinds of instances, if integrated into control tower, helps you understand or predict what's going to be the delay, what's my stock in hand, how can I actually either allocate stock so that I do not miss out on my commitments, or prioritize the customers who I need to definitely deliver. And these kind of, really plays in well from where the CPG today wants to implement advanced analytics or AI and ML.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I want to go back to our acronyms, RGM and OSA, and I'm sure we're going to take a deeper dive into RGM in a little bit. You've described it just at the surface level, at least, Jason, but let's go to OSA for a second. Obviously, in 2020 and forward, on-shelf availability has become one of the hottest topics, probably the most important thing in retail, since if you don't have product, everything else, all the data we collect and all the wonderful plans we all build are virtually useless. So when it comes to actual OSA, what's the specific offering you have that's connected directly to OSA? Is it metrics? Is it something else? Why is artificial intelligence beneficial in this space? And what are you doing differently at OSA that we already can't find in the market?
I think the big thing today is what we've seen is the flaw with OSA in the marketplace today. It's always looking in the rearview mirror. Today, you can go look in your systems and you can say, I've lost this many sales due to my out of stocks. You can start to drill down by store and understand, okay, it's this package in this particular store, et cetera. But it's reactive, not proactive. And what you can really do leveraging AI and ML is create a proactive, prescriptive environment to solve OSA before it ever happens. What we've been able to do is develop an accelerator that actually works and looks at that end-to-end process. So start looking at all the different root causes across the supply chain that start with things like OTIF and then work all the way down to phantom inventory within a store. And then be able to identify and say, here's where your problem exists, and look 8 weeks out into the future so that you can easily understand where there's a problem, whether or not it's in low inventory, phantom inventory, product that you're having issues with from an on-time delivery standpoint, and then be able to take corrective action to actually be able to implement change before it becomes an out of stock. The other piece that we're able to do with that is also extend into the merchandising behavior. A lot of folks that are watching this have folks that they either use third-party suppliers for merchandising or have their own merchandising teams out there. And what we're able to do is to, through the algorithms, identify, let's just say, for instance, said store constantly always has out of stocks when you're on promotion. We're able to identify and say, okay, now that we know this promotion that's 6 weeks out is coming up, in these 1,000 stores that are maybe spread across Target, Kroger, Walmart, etc., you need to make sure that you have a display. Now what you're doing is you're taking that conversation from having been a reactionary environment where you're dealing with the retailer and saying, how do we go solve what already we've lost? To now you can walk in during your JBP meetings and say, hey guys, look, if you're looking into the future, we have an opportunity to actually increase our sales together by $2 million during this promotion. And the way that we can do this is that in these stores, we need to ensure that we have a display to support. And then other ways that we're able to do it as well is throughout the pipeline, if you're a DSD environment, look at number of slots that you're provided in the back room, your merchandising cadence, your delivery cadence, and give suggestions and prescriptive recommendations on maybe changes to that infrastructure as well. And now you've really created that collaborative environment.
I'm going to remind our audience that we are having a conversation today with Jason and Kash. They are from Tredence, which is an AI consultancy focused on CPG last mile delivery, among other verticals. So let's continue with the conversation. Kash, we just heard your colleague Jason talk about OSA, or on-shelf availability. Let's shift to the other acronym, revenue growth management. I'd really love to understand from you how Tredence is making an impact on the back end of the business so that companies can be very profitable in these challenging days.
Revenue growth management, or RGM, has not been new, right? It's been around for decades, which CPGs have been practicing. But what's changing basically is, while the focus has been a lot more on pricing and promotion, and when you look at promotion, it's either trade promotion management, trade promotion optimization. That's done fairly regularly. But what you don't do is the things that precedes pricing and promotion. So we have taken a very holistic and prescriptive view of revenue growth management. What do I mean by that? Right? We start with the basics. The basics is you're having the right product, which is the assortment, in the right place, which is the distribution or the segmentation that CPGs have, with the right price, and running the right promotions when it is required. So when you put these 4 P's together, which is really the basics, and look at breaking it down into what's fundamental and what's sustaining, right? For us, the fundamental is you build the right layers of segmentation and assortment. And I'll go a little deeper into that, and I'll let Jason talk about the sustaining, which is more on the pricing and promotion. When I talk about segmentation and assortment, today, the data is available for you to go as granular as the store SKU level, right? And you could literally customize your offerings for a store with the neighborhood demographics, with the demographics of the shoppers who are entering the store, with their preferences, with their price sensitivities. Considering all that, you could literally go down to a very granular segmentation. The second part to that is the assortment, where you have you are present in outlets, but probably not with the right assortment. So what we are doing is building out dynamic machine learning models, which allows us to continually relook at the segmentation, identify specific gaps in distribution that comes up for a CPG, and then look at the assortment which is relevant for that segmentation, because these do not happen over a longer period. Rather, it happens over a longer period of time, but needs to be captured early. The models that we build helps you track this, forecast changes that are coming up, and these could be new product offerings that are coming, changes that have happened within the store from an assortment point of view, identifying stores where you're present at a brand level, but probably not present at a SKU or a pack level. So these distribution gaps, when identified on time and forecasted in terms of what the annual impact is going to be, the assortment gaps, which is again identified on time and forecasted for the year, put together gives a set of prescriptive recommendations and user specific recommendations. If you're an account manager and this is where my distribution gap is in these set of outlets, and I need to be putting these SKUs in these outlets, this is where my assortment gap is. I do have the placement, but probably there is a different attribute of the SKU which is selling well, and I need to replace that assortment. That's kind of where we are going with the foundation of segmentation and assortment within RGM.
Yeah, so then within pricing, the way that we've broken it apart is really in two different ways. One of which is your EDV, so your everyday pricing, and then obviously your promotional pricing. The reason why we've broken it out this way is because, as some of the folks know on this podcast, is that you have to have a good blend of both in order to achieve price realization in the marketplace. And that way you get a good balance between frontline price realization as well as your promotional. And so what we've really done is we built a solution that looks at the different pillars within RGM in order to account for where the opportunities exist within pricing. So think of it this way. Your company today has their pricing guardrails that are set by package. You also have price gap to competition that you want to be able to identify against. You also have the pillar of your retailer has certain pricing models that they like to follow. So what we do is we take the combination of the three of those and put that against the EDV pricing that you have in the marketplace and identify opportunities by price zone within each of those retailers and also by geography in order to understand where you have pricing realization opportunities. What that also will do is show you what the impact would be to not only your revenue, your unit volume, your profit, as well as your market share in order to provide you clear-cut understanding. It'll also show from the other side what the retailer is going to do, what that change is going to be. So that way you can really understand, is it valuable for your business as well as your customer's business? And you can have that transparent conversation together. From a promotional standpoint, what we do is we load in the forecast, or even the forecasting can be built directly within the platform. We're very flexible on how we do it. But what we do is it looks at the long haul and understands how many weeks things are supposed to be on promotion, what your trade spend budgets really are, if you operate on dead nets, what those are. And it looks at the downhill forecast for a particular customer and enables it to understand how effective are the promotions that I'm running within that customer. Are there opportunities to run other promotions that may be more productive? It highlights those as opportunities and gives recommendations on what that should be and what that recommended price can be, but also gives the user kind of the ability to do some scenario planning as well. Also would exist within it because, obviously exception management is always huge within the CPG world. It also allows for exception management. So if you go above the number of weeks, or if it's a below guardrails pricing promotion, it'll flag it. It'll show the rationale on what's going to happen with the current pricing versus what the base would be. And then it goes into an approval process through your organization, through the chart of authority. So it really allows to be flexible and become a decision engine for you to act upon. And in both ways, what we do is we integrate it back into the forecasting system. So as things are activated, as you look to set EDV changes 6 to 8 weeks out, that'll flow into your forecast. As you look to change promotions, that'll flow into your forecast as soon as you hit accept. So it really helps integrate and provide greater productivity back to the folks, your employees.
Both of you gave eloquent explanations on the RGM OSA side. I really love it, like real life examples connecting downstream to actual business use. Jason, again, like I said, great explanations, right? OSA, RGM. But I got one for you, Jason, that very few on the show have actually come in and been able to eloquently explain. And I think you're the man that's going to do it for our audience, Jason. And what the question is why artificial intelligence? Like it almost sounds like a need versus just a methodology or a means to an end to be able to get the outcomes that you spoke to. Please explain for our audience what artificial intelligence can do and why it's a game changer.
Yeah, Shri, it's a phenomenal question, something we get asked quite often. And really what it comes down to is today, we look at our environments and we go, we have a ton of data that's currently available. The amount of decisions that we could go make by being able to bring that into house, and actually, if we could do the analysis, we would be able to, one, expedite our business and really accelerate our business. The challenge has always been of how do I synthesize that data? I know personally from my past experience, it would take my teams 6 to 8 weeks of just reviewing data, running scenario plans, et cetera, in order to really understand what the impact's going to be to our business on some of these critical business decisions. Where AI and ML really can help in is it's able to process all that data, all those different sources, the combinations that you want to understand. So if we think of something like RGM, how do I not only account for the factors of what's going on in the environment of pricing, what my competition is doing, my price gap to my competition, how my retailer is doing, but how do you also start to add in, let's say, GPS traffic into that to understand what's happening in a particular store? How am I starting to shift my spend as a company because I can see these e-commerce trends that are happening and these sites starting to get even greater traffic within there? How do you account for all these different pillars in one and make a really concise decision? And where AI can do that is it can process that information and deliver back within seconds to give you an understanding, that holistic understanding of what the true business is, what the needs are, and then how to go act upon those needs. And that's where the real difference comes in. There's a lot of things that will tell you, here's what the landscape looks like, but you're still left deciding, making the decision on it. What we've been able to do is really get that down to say, here's how you go act upon it, and this is the best business decision to go after. And that's, I think, the key differentiator where our artificial intelligence plays within the CPG landscape. And those that act upon it, I believe, will accelerate their business far more than those that operate in a more digitized, traditional operating model platform.
I mean, what a fantastic, simple explanation, right? At the end of the day, what you've connected it down with is speed and real time. So in the world of OSA and RGM, I think what I hear you say is you can actually go to close to near real-time management. What a big deal that would be on the OSA side. Peter, I'll turn that over to you.
You know, Shri, I couldn't agree more. That sounds to me like why their AI solution and their consulting gets to prescriptive analytics, not just retrospective analytics. So, Jason, you spoke earlier about the 3 A's. Can you double click down for us a little bit more how Tredence is breaking down the barriers in those areas as well?
Yeah, Peter. So what we've been doing is, like I talked about earlier, we found that these are 3 roadblocks. You know, if you invest money, you want to have a solution that your people actually take in and use, and not for it to be a chore within their daily aspect of their day. And so what we really try to do is peel apart and say, adoption number 1. What are the key things that really come into that? There has to be a business lens, and when it comes in, you need to create personas so that when you go in, whether or not you're a business analyst or an account manager or you're a vice president, you're seeing a view that works within your business. And then what you're able to do is really, through simplistic means, navigate through in order to get to the information that you need, number 1, but also then have a decision that actually comes out for you to go act upon. From an accessibility standpoint, it really comes into, where does it fit within my need of my day? Whether or not I'm in front of my laptop I'm out in the market looking at stores. Can I pull it up on my phone? Or even if I'm at home at night and I'm just messing around on my iPad, can I be able to pull it up and get quick answers into it? And it also evolves into things like text messaging. How can it auto-generate text for you so that you can make quick approval processes within it? And you're not missing a minute in order to be able to do that. And then the accountability piece is also huge. What we've seen is we've added that in. So as you see opportunities, let's just take OSA, and we brought the example up earlier, where let's just say we see low inventory as a projected problem within a warehouse. How do I then go identify that and click within and assign that to one of the folks on my team to be able to go act upon? And then that sits within their buckets of to-dos. And then that, even as a manager, gives you the ability to then circle back on those one-on-one conversations to see where we are. And so that you're proactively solving your problems, but there's an accountability measure that's there. The last part in the whole system, as we look at those 3 A's, is also the realization of what you've been able to do. So if you go solve that low inventory problem, and that has now solved $100,000 worth of out of stocks within a Walmart, well, now that realization should come in and show that, hey, due to this person's work, you've actually helped the company generate $100,000. And as you start to build that over time, you can see the real realization of the efforts of the team having an impact on the business. And that's how you drive adoption, accessibility, and accountability across.
Now, the obligatory question of the day, Jason and Kash, which is users and listeners want to listen to, if they want to get in touch with you, they're going to want to know what's up on your upcoming platform and what your roadmap looks like. So if we fast forward the next 12, 18 months, can you explain to our audience what's on the roadmap? What can they expect? We already talked OSA, which is one of the hardest things in the industry today, and a problem we all need to solve collectively, brand or retail. We also talked RGM, which, as Kash mentioned earlier, has been around for decades, but it's getting finer and finer and finer in terms of where to focus on your product. Obviously, Tredence will help with the AI element of really taking it down to prescriptive outcomes people can do things with. What else can people expect?
What we're going to be looking to go do in the future is, number one, we think marketing is a huge space as well to try to get into. We've seen in the MMM environment that nobody's doing it really well. And if you can start to put obviously that prescriptive nature there, that's going to help. I think the biggest thing is we start to look kind of 12, 18 months out. It's going to really be around those interconnected models that I referenced earlier. How do you create the succinct, almost action-oriented platform that links everything from your end-to-end within your system, from a marketing all the way down the supply chain, that has that full accountability built in, and where you've also made streamlined decision-making processes so that you've been able to accomplish goals like increased revenue, higher profitability, operational effectiveness, and really more agile and networked organizations. So those are really the ways that I think we see this coming together here in the next 12 to 18 months. And then obviously, as we all know, and COVID kind of taught us, things are going to change real fast. And I'm sure there's 5 things that we haven't even thought of at this point in time. But I can tell you, we have the same conversation probably 4 or 5 months from now. We're going to have a whole new litany of things that we're going to be going after and innovating against.
I want to remind our audience that all of our content, our podcast episodes, links to our favorite podcasts, links to our Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn pages, you can find that all by just going to cpgguys.com. We're also very audience-driven in terms of the direction of our content. The best way for you to tell us what you want us to talk about is to go to ratethispodcast.com/CPGguys. Leave a review. Tell us what you want to hear from us, and maybe a rating too. They give you 5 stars. We recommend using all of them, however you want. But in any event, please leave us your feedback. We do want to hear from you. Jason and Kash, thank you so much for helping demystify how AI is helping brands deliver better solutions, improve their profit, satisfy customers more by reducing out of stock. You really got to the heart of it and helped us understand how this is enabling this at scale. So very much. And so thank you, Kash and Jason, for joining us. And Jason in particular, man, I've missed working with you. We had a lot of fun back in the days when I was at dunnhumby and you were at Coke. We did a lot of fun stuff. So thank you both for joining us.
It was a pleasure, Peter. Pleasure, Shri. We're really happy that you invited us on, and thankful for the partnership.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Shri.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. And we're going to include in, as I mentioned, the digital liner notes, links to Tredence, links to your LinkedIn profiles where they can learn more. Shri, great episode, right?
Peter, these conversations are the best conversations when someone comes to the show, is willing to take it head on. I asked a question, connect AI to outcomes, and Jason did boom, 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 boom. Here's why. And he simplified the whole thing and just said it's all about speed and how fast you can act. Can it get better than that, Peter?
I don't think so.
Simple.
So thank you again.
Pleasure doing this week over week with you, and Jason, Kash. Thanks for coming on the show and joining us here at the CPG Guys.
Pleasure.
And to our audience, we appreciate you joining us for this episode, and we look forward to you joining us for future episodes of the CPG Guys podcast. Thanks. Goodbye.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.